The batches, I think that there's, a certain virtue of vintages, that'll kind of be fun to play with. But we're so early on in this thing that right now, basically, if you look at these two bottles, they're on opposite ends of a continuum. They can't be any farther apart.
Sure.
Okay, and so
we do bridge this gap.
Yep. Yep. We are.
There you go.
We are, and I think that I'm so happy with this that I would do anything to try to be able to offer a continuity and a consistency between productions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm only hoping that my one step in the process is kind of the deal breaker. It was when we were doing sample testing and everything. And again, it's all it is the purification. Okay, so if I control the plants, their location, baking time, fermentation, and everything, it might be very possible. And I haven't gotten there yet to actually be able to tell, but
We're still on batch one.
Yeah, this is yeah. I mean, we're such a small company. I mean, I'm basically doing every single aspect of it, including, going collecting, checks from from liquor stores and stuff. But I'm not complaining. I'm not afraid to work hard. So what's going to fill in the entire collection here is going to be something that's pretty unique as well.
Great.
And
So where number one, should we expect an 80 proof Dos Almas?
Well, I might be giving away too much here, but
all right. Well, then
no.
that's cool.
Yeah. No, I think you can probably.
I think we'll
expect
take that
it.
as a yes.
I think you can expect it, but frankly, and if someone beats me to it, that's perfectly fine. But I don't think that I've seen and again, with the exception of this, maybe you guys can tell me how many high proof reposados and añejos you've seen.
Well, there's some extra añejos out there. Not many repos or añejos that I can think of.
Yeah.
No, a handful, if any, and probably all coming from the same producer.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of who I'm thinking.
Yeah. What makes it difficult, of course, coming into the United States, is the taxation part of it. In California, for example, you pay $3.30 per wine gallon in state tax. For anything under 99 proof. Anything 100 and over, you pay $6.60 per wine gallon. So you're basically you're doubling, the tax that you pay to the state government just to come out with a high proof. And that's probably for business reasons the reason why most of the high proofs that you see sit at around between 95 and 99 as opposed to going over 100.
There are other brands who have recently been sold and started off at 100 and have now brought in a complete line of 80 proof and flavor infused. Sadly, that's what happens with companies that are sold. I mean, that's what happens. It just you start reaching out to everybody else, the rest of the market that you've been away from. That wasn't your main target when you started. But what do you see yourself? Where do you see Dos Almas in 5 years?
Well, I see us three hopefully doing this again in 5 years.
Yeah. Remember what you said?
Yeah, on a different standpoint. But yeah, really though, I didn't go into this with an exit strategy of any form. I didn't start DeSoto Sport with an exit strategy. I've got a few passions, and that's the reason why we're in an Airstream. But I don't do any of these things to make a quick buck. I do it just because it's just congruent with the things that I get excited about talking about.
You're all about endurance, huh?
Yeah, in more ways than one.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's for sure. But
because you're going to need it in this business.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm already seeing that. I'm already seeing that.
What do you see? I mean, you don't come from the liquor business. So, what is the biggest eye opener for you? Because I know there's a steep learning curve. What was the? Tell me about some of the surprises that you have
Yeah,
encountered?
that's a really good question. Frankly, none of them are on the production side. I mean, there's been
That's all on the retail side.
yeah, there's
probably.
there's some been really fun eye openers on the production side, but nothing that was like shocking or surprising. It was all stuff that I pretty much knew. The process, the secret process, is so elementary. Chem 1A. I mean, I studied mechanical engineering at UC Santa Barbara, and it was something that I learned in chemistry, my very first quarter there, and so. But most of the surprises came on the retail side. Everything from the three tier system of the U.S. government to the basically excise taxes. They're basically a consumption tax. They're not necessarily attached to the value of the product, but rather the alcohol content, the proof of it. And then also just the really rigid. It is a huge barrier of entry.
From a labeling perspective.
On a labeling, yeah, everything from labeling, and then of course, this was a tricky part with the cinnamon is that I basically was playing intermediary between the CRT and the U.S. Treasury Department and getting a label to be approved.
Did you do all your paperwork yourself?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Because there used to be a company that would help you do that.
Yeah.
But I don't think she's.
And there still are. Actually, my wife is an attorney, and
Oh, there you go.
and she helped me a lot. But the one thing that she's become an expert in is liquor law.
Excellent.
And
you need to be.
yourself.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
nothing else, she knows all this stuff. I mean, she teaches at a school. She teaches children's rights, children in the law, and she protects the rights of children in amazing ways. And so again, she doesn't do it for the money. It's not a high-paying thing, but it is
Rewarding.
It is incredible when she comes home and tells me about the things that
It's a great story.
the things that the differences she's made and stuff, and just makes me think, oh yeah, I'm just living in La La Land here. All I'm dealing with is sportswear and tequila and stuff. But again, it's perfectly congruent with our lifestyle. We're not fancy people. We enjoy the fruits of our labor and everything, and we don't drink tequila out of Dixie cups. Okay,
Yeah.
but we also are more about the long term. How can we make an impact as significant as what she's doing and as passionate as the things that I'm doing? It's definitely not to turn around and make a quick buck.
Are your next steps focused on, as we talked about that bridge, are you thinking about where you want to fill things in because of the off-premise market? Are you thinking on-premise? Who do you see as your major consumer? Who are you trying to attract?
Yeah, that's a good question. Given how many people I know who bought Dos Almas to drink off-premise, at home and stuff, compared to, for example, the number of restaurants that we're actually serving it to, serving in. One of the things that I've really been focusing on that I learned through this whole process is that you can't just sell the product to a restaurant, to a food and beverage manager.
No, yeah.
I mean, if he believes in it, he's going to sell it himself. But we're not just trying to open up endless accounts and endless restaurants. We're trying to get into a few really, really good ones. Okay, and then
Strictly here in San Diego to begin with.
right now we're in San Diego, although we do have an old restaurant in Orange County called the Quiet Woman in Corona del Mar. And then we also serve at the Lansby Hotel in Solvang.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
cool.
it's an old beautiful hotel, and they have a really eclectic clientele of people who come in from the ranch, up north.
Yeah.
And they'll come into town and have really good food, and they'll have Tequila Mondays, I think they do, and stuff like that.
Cool.
And so yeah, it's been really fun. And again, I'm blessed to be working with Chris. I'm working with Ted Gibson out at Rancho Valencia in the Pony Room.
Mm-hmm.
And their collection obviously is
It's massive.
massive. And Ted and I have had that very same conversation of, well, now that things have changed so much in the production side, are you going to be slimming down and tightening up a little bit and stuff? He says, what's really difficult is just that they have people who come in and they want their particular brand, and you kind of have to have it. But it's cool because he's been really growing his mezcal
good.
side and everything too, which I think is really, really great.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy mezcals?
I do. A guy who's actually mentored me a little bit in this entire process is Chris Hampson from Sikaru.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, and Chris obviously came from some 25 years at Bacardi and has a lot of knowledge about a lot of things that expand way beyond just tequila. So he was pretty instrumental too in filling me with all the warning signs of
Yeah.
if this
Watch for
doesn't
this and watch for that.
talk you out of doing it, nothing will.
So, okay, Lisa, is there anything you want to ask, or do you think that people want to know about Dos Almas and about Emilio and his process?
I think you pretty much covered everything.
One thing,
That was my next question. What do you want? What do
Lisa,
want to
you
know?
who love to cook,
Yeah,
a
I
cinnamon
love.
banana flambe. This stuff lights up just like Grand Marnier.
I love cooking with it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love cooking with it.
The stuff she comes up with in that kitchen.
I'm.
She was the reason that I wound up in the kitchen doing puerco prohibido with soltado. It was her.
Oh, nice.
I said, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get an apron and do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, she does breads and pastries and
See, I drink the blancos.
Mhm.
I
She's a
love
Blanco gal.
I love the high proof.
You and my wife, perfect. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you have something like that, I mean, you use such a great quality cinnamon in that it just
Rick really enjoyed it
it-
too. We had
it
we had
was
great
really-
time with
Guys, at
that.
some point, thank you.
It was
at some
wonderfully
point,
woody.
I'm going to, the next time we meet, I'm going to bring you the Ceylon cinnamon sticks.
Ah.
They are really tiny and they're really tight and they're super brittle. And all this kind of plays really well into the notion of I'm infusing the cinnamon sticks in it, because they're so small, they don't just float at the top and they don't sink at the bottom. They're kind of everywhere.
Cool.
And this stuff is stirred every day for a couple of weeks. And they are just,
it makes it different than
Yeah.
anything else out there. You've really set it apart from the others. And I mean, I was a fan of another cinnamon one because I really do enjoy baking. But even drinking, I love this because it's so much
real, right?
more.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
it
much
does.
more
It's
than.
just real instead of artificial.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Because
one of
you
the-
walk that thin line with artificial too much.
It's
and
not
it just tastes
candy.
like hot
Yeah,
Red
believe
Hots.
me.
It's
and-
not candy.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
it's-
yeah.
He mentioned that I wasn't interested to taste it at first, and I'm, at the time I certainly wasn't. To me, infused tequilas are just not my jam.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think I don't believe I even tasted that first night.
Yeah.
But then when I finally did, I thought, wow, this is really
Good, yeah.
impressive.
And it's been pretty consistent. I presented this to Eric Johnson down at Juniper and Ivy, and he was like, I wouldn't buy it because that's what I do myself. This is what
Sure.
part of our expertise is and everything. But just so that you know, when I made this, we basically took this, put it in barrels for 60 days. Okay, and again, this was something that was new to me because this was going to have color from the cinnamon.
Mm-hmm.
I was not able to put on it that it was going to have a blanco tequila. It needed to be a reposado or an añejo because of the color. That's one of the tricky little CRT
Yeah,
rules,
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Because even though it's a liqueur and it's classified that by both the U.S. Treasury Department and the CRT, I was a bit frustrated because my first cinnamon infusion was made with the blanco.
Yeah.
But the fun thing is that this was basically 47% when it went in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and part of the dilution came from the little bit of agave nectar that we made out of the very same plants. We had a small batch of agave nectar made in Oaxaca that we used for this. And so then there's actually in this very little water too. So yeah, so it was diluted to about 47%, and then when we mixed it with the tequila and put in the cinnamon and everything.
The same plants made in Oaxaca. What do you mean?
Well, we took the plants from Tepatitlan and
took
we
them down to make them into the syrup.
into the syrup.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're, I don't, Cofradia doesn't have
No,
the
no.
facility to do that.
No. They
And they won't.
no, and so it was actually made by a gentleman who works at the University of Michoacan.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you couldn't put Blanco on the bottle.
Could not put Blanco on the bottle or in the bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
because of the coloration, not as a result of the resting period, of the barreling.
How interesting.
So yeah, kind of a.
You know, I gotta say, I love the woodiness that's in it, because having been in a barrel and using that particular cinnamon, it has a much more woody.
That's a good question. How that presents a good question. How was the first batch that you did with the Blanco in comparison to the 60-day repo? Could
Well,
you
there was
see a
exact
difference.
There was a little bit. We used brand new French white oak barrels.
Okay.
So there wasn't any, lingering taste profiles or anything like that from the inside of the barrels. And we kept them in just the bare minimum of time to call it a reposado. So
Yeah.
literally on the 60th day, we were in there taking it out
Right.
because I wanted to preserve that. Having said that, I can't really tell you that oaky or the woodsy flavor that you're tasting is from anything other than the cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
Yeah.
I mean, it was such a pale yellow.
Yeah, that's exactly why I asked.
See, that's
Yeah, it was-
that's why I wondered. Is it the barrels? Is it the cinnamon? Is it? But it was so different than
So
any
good.
other cinnamon,
Yeah,
and I mean, we've tasted others that are like,
Yeah.
candy and
Yeah.
and all kinds of
Will make
nasty
you
stuff.
cringe.
Yeah. Well,
But-
so there was, we came down to like basically weighing the cinnamon sticks, to the
Yeah.
closest gram, per liter and stuff to really determine where we needed it to be. And so it worked out really well. And then plus there's no fogginess at all to it. I mean, it's crystal clear. And again, that's part of the purification process. But that's why you find no sediment in it. Or
Yeah,
anything.
Yeah.
it's not like you have to
Nothing
mix
at
it
all.
up or
No,
anything like
nothing
that.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we just about. Is there something else that you want the public to know about Dos Almas before we go? Any?
How about the name and the
Yeah, where did the name come
the
from?
artwork?
Yeah,
Yeah, actually, that's a really good question. So Dos Almas
the
means,
stuff he's wearing on his.
yeah, Dos Almas means two souls, and the short story is that I have the face was made by a graphic designer who really spiritual guy. He did a lot of research himself on the history of the tequila and what it was the conquistadors contributed to tequila and what the natives, and their mash and everything. And so it's basically half the face is his rendition of a conquistador, and the other half of the face is his rendition of an Aztec war mask. And thus we have
Wow.
So the convergence of two cultures.
the clash of two cultures that brought so many other things. Even though one caused the demise of the other, it was the whole exchange of cuisine and plants and
Language.
and language and animals and horses and,
They
and
created,
everything.
well, they created a whole other race.
Yes,
So,
absolutely, yeah. And so, that's where the name came from. But basically, we kind of saw it as it wasn't our first pick, but there were so many. Again, when you're dealing with trademark issues, you have to kind of go down and have a number of other options available. But this one ended up being probably the best possible situation, given that it's easy to read, easy to understand, easy to remember, and it's worked out basically almost serendipitous that it's the one that we ended up going with.
And what about the bottle shape? What was the thought process?
Yeah, good question there. So, you know, when you're a small brand, you have to choose wisely, and we didn't want it to be. We understand that tall bottles are easily recognizable, but they're also hard to put on certain shelves.
Yeah.
Short round bottles can get masked if they're not sitting in the front. The purpose for the face, though, is more of a facial recognition thing that, you know, we, even as infants, the first thing that we begin to learn and react to and communicate to are facial expressions. And so we kind of figured that if somebody forgets the name, they can ask for the bottle with the weird face on it.
Yeah.
Okay. But the bottle shape itself, we wanted something that was kind of not big but powerful. That's the kind of the strong square shoulders and everything. Mike, you saw the rare issue, you know, with the caps. It's a production thing that
happens.
that happens, and we thought that we had a wonderful idea putting, you know, the face on the top of the caps and you know, kind of making them congruent with the colors of the bottles and everything. For our next production, you know, we're certainly not going to go this way, although we do want to keep the face on in some way.
Of course.
You know, we kind of felt like it was actually a good size that would fit in. Believe it or not, in most coolers and most suitcases that people are traveling with them. We wanted to make them something, thus the wetsuit carrying case, something that I do quite often.
Cruiser, man.
I do quite often. If somebody, you know, I'll walk into a restaurant with a bottle of tequila and pay the corkage fee. If I'm with company that really wants to enjoy it, or if I'm just alone with my wife, you know. But we kind of like the fact that it's not a wood box. It's different. On the shelf, it's kind of attention getting, and you know, and
San Diego.
it suits a great purpose. Yeah.
So love that.
Yeah.
It's great.
And it fits on the handlebars of a bike.
Yeah, that's good, and they're strong enough too. Yeah, we reinforced that.
Yep.
Yeah, we use the finest wetsuit rubber. That's for sure.
That's it. See, it's right here, wetsuit.
Yeah, that's great.
That's the coolest thing. It's really, it's clever.
That rubber right there isn't made out of petroleum. It's made out of limestone. It's a limestone derivative.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
it's absorbent.
It's we call it green goma rubber, and it's actually a closed cell, so it's not very absorbent, but it works great as a pot holder if you're, you know, in the trailer and you need to reach for something. Yeah, and so yeah, we kind of thought it would be a nice different approach.
Well, it really combines. It's a convergence of two worlds, just like Dos Almas.
Dos Almas, exactly.
That's
right.
cool. Well, you've been watching Emilio DeSoto and Chris Simmons here from from where are we in this place here?
The Farmer and the Seahorse.
Farmer and the Seahorse. We're actually inside an RV, a stream, a bullet, silver bullet in the airstream. Yep. And it's the coolest thing. This is neat. Thanks, guys, for the information and for the inside story on Dos Almas. This has been great. I loved it. It's always gratifying to me to talk to somebody and ask them why, because this business is such a tough business, man. Yeah. And the stories are always varied, but it's nice to be able to talk to the guy who owns the brand, who stands behind the brand, who's in front of the brand, and realizes that he's in it for the long haul. That's endurance. It's all about endurance.
And I'll tell you, Mike, one of the things that we're hearing a lot on the internet, the chat rooms and things that we belong to, is that people are missing some of that quality old tequila, right? We're constantly hearing that people are dismayed by some of these newer products, especially with all the diffuser juice out there. So to see a product on the market that it really exposes its soul and says, this is what I'm about, and it's quality, I think it has a very important place in the market now, right? And as people that are missing really good quality tequila, they're able to find out that there are other brands emerging that are fantastic. So
well, the neat part is, everybody believes that everybody's got a favorite. We talked about that earlier, and there are certain names of people that stick in people's heads. And sometimes when you're on premise, when you're at a bar or a restaurant, you got to have those names because they're really recognizable names. Sadly, that leaves the small to medium-sized producer or distiller or brand owner, out in left field, and that's where we come in, because we really that's as far as I can see, that's our job, is exposure to show people that this is it may be hard to find. Maybe you can get it online. Maybe you have to come all the way to San Diego to get it right now. But it's really well worth finding. And the thing is, the Patrons and Don Julios of the world, you meet the brand representatives. You don't meet the Don Julio sadly passed away. Patron, nobody there, except for the girls. But when people come to see Los Almas, they're going to meet you. They're going to meet the brando. They're going to shake hands with somebody who's literally got his hands in this juice. And that means a lot, I think, to the consumer, to a guy like you, who may be the liquor buyer,
Absolutely.
or the consumers who come in here and are looking for something better. So
Yeah, that's right.
It becomes a hard story to tell, especially when you're new. You're at times almost feel like you're tested by the buyer or the food and beverage manager or something like that. I didn't feel that way with Chris.
because he knows better.
Well, I wanted.
He's going to test you.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
he asked some questions. I answered them. I didn't, I never really give a whole lot more than I need to, other than to just make sure that they understand that anything that they're going to ask about my product and possibly about tequila in general, I'm either going to answer or have an opinion about.
Yeah, well.
It's part of my campaign now, as I'm sure it is with you guys too, especially when you're maybe drinking in a closer circle or something, that if somebody starts asking more and more questions, that you start letting them know, about the process and about the most traditional process, and now the faster processes that are in place. And if that's of any value to you, it might also change your opinion about what you're going to end up buying in the future.
Absolutely. I couldn't
Because-
agree more.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, you just mentioned it right there. If people start to ask questions, then you recognize that's your opportunity
That's your
to
opportunity.
open that discussion, right? Because a lot of people simply just don't know, right? They don't
Yeah.
know what a diffuser is.
Yeah,
they don't
don't
understand
know.
the difference between, even something as simple as a mixed to 100%. A lot of people don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So of course it's going to be hard for the average consumer to understand what's quality, what isn't quality. They just don't know the process. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and ultimately what we do here at Tequila Aficionado is we like to meet people like you and Chris, because it allows you to tell your story in your words. You're hearing it from the horse's mouth. Maybe you can't make it to an outdoor taco fest or whatever, but at least you can look it up on our YouTube channel, on Tequila Aficionado's channel, on your Facebook pages, and say, see this guy?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go find that.
Mhm.
And really, ultimately, that's really all we can do.
Well, the thing that I've found and what I've really loved about the agave community, as you mentioned right away in the beginning, is that it's a really close community. And the people that are very passionate about it are very friendly with each other. It's almost like a family in a way, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that I've seen is that almost everybody that's in this family, the one thing that we want is to disseminate information, right? To pull more people in, because it seems like we all understand the more people that know about agave, that understand the beauty of it, they're really going to appreciate it. They're going to drink it, they're going to consume it, they're going to go out and tell other people about it, right? And we have this world of spirits that we're up against, right? This big vodka world, or now whiskey, right? Whiskey's become so popular in the past 10 years, really. My personal feeling is that agave should outshine all of them for a lot of reasons, right? That we won't necessarily get into today. But when we fall in love with this product, I think we understand, or agave in general, we start to understand how beautiful it is, and so then we want to let the world know, right?
Well, all of us have been changed, I think, by agave in general. There's a saying, once you go to tequila, you'll always come back.
Yeah.
And it really is Pueblo Mágico. And when you see the agave fields for the first time, and you walk among them, and you can feel that there's something going on, it changes your life. And that's basically, this is a life changer. And not just Dos Almas, but agave, I think, in general.
Right.
And we want others to feel that way, because they may never come to a distillery, they may never walk a field.
Right.
But at least maybe they can get a little bit of a taste of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I commend what you guys are doing, with Tequila Aficionado, with starting a brand. My business partner and I have just started a business called Sipping Life, so you can find it online, sippinglife.com.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so, and our whole thing is to just kind of preach to the masses, anyone who will listen. some information. We want to take
Nice.
people down to Jalisco, into Oaxaca,
Nice.
and just kind of spread that love.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Good for you.
Great. Yeah.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
gentlemen.
Right.
Thank you,
My
Emilio, for
pleasure.
being
Yeah,
here with
thank
us,
you. Yeah,
for taking the
pleasure.
time. Chris, thanks for
Thank
showing
you.
up, man.
Yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
surprise. I'm glad
Yeah.
that you're here. It was
Yeah,
fun.
Yeah.
Great job, Emilio.
Yeah, me too, man. Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, dear. Thank you, Lisa.